personalized plates. Barclay, Barry, Bert, Bort. Oh, come on, Bort? Mommy, buy me a license plate.
No, come along, Bort.
Are you talking to me?
No, my son is also named Bort.
Mop and Bucket Man to the exit of the Nauseator.
We have another jumper in the roof with TGI McScratchies.
We need more Bort license plates in the gift shop. I repeat, we are sold out of Bort license plates.
All right, everybody, welcome back to another week of Muskies on Tap. Welcome to episode number 141 and first ever Muskies on Tap episode aired over YouTube with video. So welcome to the podcast. I'm one of your hosts here tonight, Gus Manti, and I'm just gonna start here with an introduction. Right to my right, we got none other than Taylor Flannery with Muskie Guarantee Guide Service in-house. How's it going tonight, Taylor?
It's going great. Having a great time. Came up to see Gus, and we spent some time in the Hammer Customs workshop today. That was pretty exciting. So we got to see some of that going on. Excited to talk about muskies in the dead of winter.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to it. Let's kind of go down the line here. Let's next up go with my brother, Max. Max, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing good, yeah. Excited to be here on YouTube. I know I have a pretty bad history with YouTube videos and doing well as it relates to musky fishing and whatnot. So let's see if the podcasting will go a little different. But yeah, excited to be here. Got a big weekend ahead of us here, Gus. Unfortunately, our third amigo is not on the line here this evening as he's recovering from a little bit of a sickness, but he's got to heal up. We got our big ice fishing tournament this weekend. Old heads taking on the young guys. You guys are going to need them for sure. So yeah, really excited. Actually, probably the most excited I've been to ice fish in a long time. So ready to get up there. Weather looks pretty good. Ready to smash on some pike.
Yeah, it's going to be mainly a pike tournament. So we're looking forward to it. Just chasing flags, having fun. That sort of thing. We'll have a recap on that for sure. But yeah, moving forward here, it's going to be all talking about the Wisconsin Musky Expo here tonight. We got a lot to unpack here. We're going to dive very deep into some of the baits at the show and some other things. So if you are watching on YouTube, you've already seen on the screen here, we have none other than Rich Reinert. Rich, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing good. How you doing, Gus?
I'm doing solid. It's a good day. I'm glad to be back. I made it back alive from Pennsylvania. Gone
so
for
tell me,
15 days.
How was that show? How was that show?
Is a lot. To put it simply. What's that?
You were at the Harrisburg show, right?
Yeah, the Great American Outdoor Show. Yeah.
How was that? I mean, how do you feel after it? You feel like it worked you over?
Yeah, it drained a little bit for sure, but I mean, it's kind of like a wake up, rinse and repeat. It's a 9-day show. Yep. So, I mean, we're talking, the Wisconsin Musky Expo's 3 and, 2 of them are shortened. This is 9 days in a row. And it is nonstop. I think they estimate somewhere between 200 and 300,000 people through the doors in those 9 days.
Yep. I believe that. It's quite the show.
Which is unreal. Yeah. It absolutely is, but it was great. Worked it with Hooked and Tag booth. People loved all the new stuff. New camo hoodies, great. But yeah, bringing them up, they were coming to the Wisconsin Musky Expo for the first time.
They are.
If you want to describe where they're at, everyone's going to be able to see them if they haven't seen their stuff yet.
Well, here's the thing for the people that don't know what Hooked and Tagged is. And I really wasn't really aware of it until last year. And then I started wearing their clothing. And quite frankly, their hoodies, especially the bamboo hoodie, you probably know a little bit more about it than I do. But all I know is that bamboo hoodie they make, some pretty comfortable stuff. And I think, Hooked and Tagged, people are not familiar with that name. They should be, because as far as I'm concerned, the quality of the hoodies, the the hoodies, the high performance hoodies they've got. There you go. That's a regular hoodie you've got on there,
Yeah.
but they've got that,
Warm
what
hoodie.
do you call that stuff?
It's
You
like a
know,
performance SPF
yeah,
kind of
that stuff
yeah.
is as it, hooked and tagged is as good as it doesn't take a back seat to any of the big name high performance hoodies. I can tell you that right now.
Right. And
Good
it's
stuff.
great
Actually,
prices
here,
too.
you know what? Here. Let me see here. There we
You getting a
go.
There
little
we
try
go.
on haul?
Hooked and tagged.
Oh God. All right.
Okay. And
Can't
here's
even.
one of them I just got. I love these.
You gonna
I
try
think I
it on,
got every
Rich?
color now.
No.
Look at this. Woohoo. Yeah, that's, we can't, you know, oh well, I tried, but no, it's nice stuff. That's great stuff. And I think,
Mm-hmm.
you get kind of used to wearing this. It's like not wearing, seems like when you're wearing this, when it's cold, you're warm. And when it's warm, you're cool. Does that make sense? It's
Yeah.
some really great
Yep.
stuff. So, that
Rich is
it's
like a Katy Perry song.
what? Get out of here. Katy Perry. Who's that?
You're hot, then you're cold. You're yes,
Yes and
then you're
you're
no.
no.
Keep
You're in and
moving.
you're
Yeah.
out.
Keep
I'm-
moving.
Yeah, there you
Yeah.
go. Max says, keep her moving.
No, that's fair. Well, yeah, that's really exciting to have them at the show. And really cool that you got them going there. But for what people can expect going to the show, first explain what are the dates, and then and when you first walk in, like what's the culture around the show? What have built to have? Because it's our favorite show. It's all of our favorite show to go to.
Well, first of all, the Wisconsin Muskie Expo, the dates are March 20th, 21st, and 22nd. On Friday, the doors open up, at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And the show runs till 8 o'clock at night. And of course, Saturday will open back up at 9 and it goes till 6. And then, of course, Sunday, 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. So we try to make the hours fairly friendly for everybody, not only the people coming to the show, but also to the vendors as well. I think the
Mhm.
biggest thing is this. I think what I see in the muskie industry, there's a lot of people coming into this that, they're just either business people or they're not really in the fishing business or have not been in it, and they don't know what they're. You got to understand. You got to work this. You have had to have worked this for years. You're being a vendor, like you being a vendor with Hooked and Tagged right now. You're getting a taste of what it's like this year of going to a show and then getting done with the show and going out to find a restaurant to eat at. You know what I'm saying? And then get
Mhm.
back late, get up early. We try to make everything comfortable for the vendors. I think you guys can answer that better than I can because both of you are vendors there. Okay. And at the same time, we also want to make it a pleasant atmosphere for, the family, not just the fisherman, but we want to make it pleasant for the fisherman's wife as well as his kids. Because I think one of the things that we're missing in fishing today is the youth. We don't have the youth coming into fishing like we used to. They're trapped behind, Xbox and telephones, and they're too technical. They're not on the water fishing. Would you agree with that, Taylor?
Yeah, I agree with that. I want to kind of give a shout out to Titletown Muskies Inc., which is a vendor at the Wisconsin Muskie Expo as well. They do kids like fishing out of the bucket, and then they have the muskie that they got the saddle on that the kids sit on. And I personally take my kids over there, and we have a good time with that. And then is it Bill's Muskie Club does the color the muskie thing right at like the main doors.
Yep.
They participated in that as well. They had a good time doing it. So it's a place for everybody, not just musky anglers, but family alike. So it's nice to see.
I don't think your kids were bored at all last year. They seem to be scooting around that show and having a great time.
Yeah, they
Correct?
absolutely did. They picked out all the baits that they wanted, and they got all the stickers, and they had everything musky, and they were telling me all about all the fish they were going to catch on them and putting split rings on them and changing out hooks and everything after we got home. So,
That's
yeah,
awesome.
they had an absolute blast with it.
That's great. That's awesome. So,
That is
anyways,
awesome.
it's March 20th to the 22nd. This is our 15th year. 15th year of
15.
doing this. And I think the
That's
biggest
awesome.
thing with us is I think everybody involved in this. I started this 15 years ago with my wife, Penny, and it was something that Penny really enjoyed. I mean, still to this day, when her kids started, uh, I think they were in basically junior high. High school. Yeah, they weren't driving yet, but today those are the kids that you're going to see when people walk in the door. They're still working the show, and they're there not because I mean, they all have really good jobs, but this is part of their life. This is what they do. They enjoy this. So a lot of people within the staff at Wisconsin Muskie Expo, they come back every year. It's almost like a reunion, and there's a lot of passion. And you, Gus, as you come on board, you've brought the same passion to the show. You say this is your favorite show, but both of you bring a lot of passion to that show. So you're all
Absolutely.
part of that.
Yeah.
Actually, Nikki's going to be working. Taylor's wife is going to be working with the show this year, helping
Yeah,
out.
that's good. You get her out of my hair, Rich.
Yeah, we're definitely, she's going to hear this. You know that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's fine.
She's going to beat you.
Damn.
All
So,
right, next.
Nice. Yeah.
so
Well, no, it's gonna be great, and I love the culture behind that show. Feels like you can approach anybody there at the show and just talk muskies forever. Everyone's really friendly. All the vendors, all the people that are building baits or what have you, they're gonna talk with you. They're willing to talk and help you out, whether you are going there as a veteran muskie fisherman or a novice muskie fisherman. This is a show that's built for everybody, and I really like that. So, to get right to the meat and potatoes of it, Rich, I think we should start with an all-star lineup of baits to show. That's why we're doing this over Zoom and putting it out onto YouTube. You got some baits lined up, um, and you have some brand new ones too that have not been shown anywhere else or even talked about anywhere else. So this is going to be brand new, exclusive here for now until you can get your hands on it. So I'm going to spotlight you. Hopefully this works on the when it's recorded and everything. First time doing this, so hopefully it all works out. But show us what you got, Rich.
well, here's the thing. There are people that there's some redundancy here. And I want you to understand part of the redundancy is people just think that we play favoritism with these bait companies. That's not what happens. What happens is we show baits that we're getting asked about, whether it be on messenger chat or, texting, people sending messages to Wisconsin Muskie Expo or myself. We get these people ask. I'll give you a good example. Well, I'm going to talk about this one first because this is a different bait that we haven't shown. Most people are familiar with this here. This here is a Tom Superglide. Okay. And I
Mm-hmm.
will tell you this, there's a small amount of these on the market. There's never been a lot of them on the market. Tom Harrison, he's 73 years old, been making these for years. He's a heck of a fisherman of himself, but he had people asking, for something a bit bigger. So now he's got the 10-inch. So
And
to give you
his
a comparison size
yeah,
wise, there's the
and
size.
his 7-inch glide, super glide, has been one of my favorite glide baits. That is apart from the typical ones you can get at every bait store. That 7-inch super glide has been phenomenal. That 10-inch looks outstanding and gonna
Well,
glide really nice. Because last year I used the 10-inch Phantom a lot. That's kind of a semi hard to get bait because they don't really, they don't make them anymore. But I think that one would fit the box. Last October, they were loving the big glide baits, so I could see that one. Has he run it a lot last year or?
yes. Here's one thing I'll tell you about Tom. Tom is definitely old school. Most of these guys, with these bait companies, they just don't make a bait and put them out there. I'm sure there are companies that do that, but I can tell you for a fact, all these companies that are here, they test and they catch fish on them first. I can tell you that. Um,
Mhm.
Tom's Superglide, this actually got fish for a full season. Did put fish in the boat. It's got a great action to it. Something that's unique to a lot of people, they think gliders all the same. What's unique to a super glide, and I think you saw this, Gus, is when it's got a beautiful belly roll when it's coming through the water, but then
Mhm.
when you stop it, it goes head down. Now, I don't know what this means to the fish, but I'm gonna tell you, this is a great cold water bait. I do very well with it. Every year for the last, few years, we put a fish over, between four, 48 and 50 inches in the boat every year, on the 7-inch glide. He's had a lot of people, like say from Minnesota, and guys like you, Gus, younger guys that do want to throw that bigger bait. So he did make that. So that's coming out, and it's going to be at the Tom's Custom Musky Lure booth, at the show. So I'm sure you'll be over there, Gus, and
Oh
ravaging
yeah.
some of those.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
I'm gonna I'm gonna need one or two of those. That's I never really was a glide bait guy, but I saw some cool things happen with muskies and the power of that kind of a bait and that big of a glide bait in the fall, moving slow. Taylor saw it firsthand in one day.
Be quiet, Gus. Glide baits don't work. Big glides don't work. You just mind your own business.
Yeah.
You
Why?
mentioned, Gus, you mentioned about the 10-inch Phantom. Eric Larson at Black Sheep Tackle Company got his hands, on a bunch of, I think, 10 and 12-inch Phantoms, the original Phantoms, and from Mike Heath. And I think he's actually painting them, and he's going to have a limited amount in his booth.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah,
That's
no
kind of
kidding.
cool.
These are all these little things that are
And
going
black
on at the
sheep.
show. Black Sheep
Okay. There.
Tackle Company, Eric Larson.
Wow.
Yep.
Yeah. I hope people got their notebooks out because I might have to re-listen to this
Yep.
because
He's got,
yeah.
if I'm not mistaken, he's got 10 and 12-inch,
Hmm.
the bigger sizes of the Phantoms. So he'll have a limited amount. So Gus, you might want to get there and, dive in.
Oh, I'll be there.
Yep. But honestly, this bait's
Yeah.
pretty impressive. This is a
So what
very
does it
impressive bait
do?
in the
What does it
water.
do when it stands still? Is it a semi head first down or is
No,
it kind
it's
of just
not. That's the
shimmy
difference.
down?
That's the difference between a 7-inch and the 10-inch. This bait actually has got a beautiful, belly roll to it coming through the water. But when you stop it, it goes down level and actually flutters just like this
Shimmies.
going down.
I like that. That's what the 10-inch Phantom does. It just kind of
Yep, that's what
falls and
this
belly
does, just
rolls
like that, back and
flat,
forth.
just like that.
It's just going down. Whereas the
Yep.
7-inch actually at the end of the glide will actually just take a nosedive.
Hmm.
And when you're working these, I usually let them nosedive, and I let them get through that nosedive, and then I'll pull on it and then bring it back, and usually that's where you'll get slammed on these things.
Hmm.
It's a great cold water bait, excellent cold water bait, as you well know, Gus.
Yep, absolutely. Well,
So
I'm looking forward to that one.
while we're on that, I'm going to hand these to Penny. So there. So while we're on this, probably the biggest question we have being asked, and we have discussed this on other places, and we all know about Conklin pedigrees. Okay. This is one of the new show colors. And I keep bringing this up because it's amazing. Even though, like in the case of Brian Scaife, he got his videos out there. I think in our case, we're going to be a little bit more detailed on some of these baits. He's a one-man operation. He's worked very hard to get more baits done. He's given up a lot of time fishing wise because, he's trying to appease a lot of people. It's amazing today in this marketplace that how people get really upset with others when they can't get what they want right away. Okay. It's just like, it is what it is. I mean, he's trying to,
Well, these are one man shows.
well, right. And listen, he hand makes these things. I mean, he's out there, he's cutting out on the bandsaw and all the, equipment he's got. And you can see the dust flying, out of his garage, when he's making these things. And, he cuts them right there. He does all the work, paints them, balances them, tests the baits. He does everything to these baits. He knows these baits inside and out. So, he's doing the best he can. Um, I know there was a comment on one of the things about one guy says, what's kind of funny is YouTubers, he said these baits are so hard to come by and they want to keep them to themselves and all of a sudden they make them big and that's why their problem comes. You know what? That's not what it's about. What it's about is, I'm glad to tell people about this bait. Yeah, they're hard to come by, but they're catching fish. And a lot of people wouldn't be aware of this bait unless you took the time or I took the time to tell people about it. And for the small amount of baits that these are in the market, these baits are catching a lot of fish. They're catching some big fish. And you know what? I'm happy to see other people catch fish. So, you know, do these guys, I mean, and your guys are figuring this out, I mean, you've come on, both of you have come on very strong in the last few years and you're out there, you're working hard. But it's not like you get showered with baits from all these companies. Gus, Taylor, I know for a fact you buy your equipment because everybody thinks that you guys get showered with stuff. No, you guys are buying your
No.
stuff and you buy with what works for you. And it's the same thing with this. This bait works well. I've done well with this. It's a staple for me. It's an easy bait for me to teach a customer, a client with on the water, how to use a glider. And for the small amount of these out there, they catch a lot of fish. Period. End. So we tell the world, and then you get some doofus that gets on there and saying, well, you guys are the problem. Why those baits are getting popular. Well, good. We're trying to help others catch fish. So the one thing that he did do this year, again, he jumped on these pretty quick. And, this late this summer, cutting the bodies, but he came out with an XL. Again, it's a bigger bait than, let's see, we can do this here. It's a bigger bait than the pedigree. Can you
Yep.
see that?
Yep, sure can.
So this bait does not work like a pedigree. This has got, again, a belly roll. It's similar to, a Tom Superglide. It's just a little bit smaller, but it has a totally different action. It's got a faster action, than say the pedigree does. So that's the size difference. And he's going to have a pretty good handful of these as well. Again, he spent a lot of time this year, working on baits. Both of these are some of the new colors that are going to come out this year. I've been fortunate to fish and get my hands on a lot of these colors, to test and give them feedback. And, I can tell you both are both winners and he will have plenty of baits, hopefully, for everybody this year. Okay.
Yeah,
So,
looks like good stained water baits. And I know Taylor, you ran an XL pedigree a little bit last year. I don't know if gliders really were a big thing in your boat in the fall, but what did you think of the action compared to the smaller pedigree?
Let's the original pedigree is more of a quicker, snappier kind of bait. It's really tight. That XL is it's got more belly roll to it, I want to say,
yep.
and it's also hangs just a little bit longer. I had multiple fish come in on that bait when I was not raising any. Like we went through an extreme power window where we had 2, 3 fish flying up on blades or rubber or whatever it is, and then they just stopped. Switch over to that XL, and then we started bringing fish up again. So it's definitely a tool for the job kind of thing, but it moves some fish around for us. So it's definitely one that you want to go check out.
And see, and that's one of those companies where before he releases, he's been playing with that XL for 2 years. It's not like he just throws things on the market. He puts them into the hands of guys like Taylor or myself and several others, and he makes sure, that they're doing what they're supposed to do. So, And that's a mark of a good quality bait maker. He wants to make sure that, people are not going to have a problem with those baits. Most of the time, when people are having a problem working a glider, it's not because the glider not doing its job. It's because the people are not working the bait correctly, nor do they take the time to figure that bait out. I think, I once had a conversation with a gentleman and he told me, well, he said, I got one of these, and he says, but the bait's not doing what I want it to do. And I said, what is it you want the bait to do? And he told me how he was working it. And I said, well, you were not working that bait correctly. And I said, and it's not about whether how you want the bait to work. You work the bait according to what the bait's supposed to do so it'll catch fish. I mean, that's what you're out there for to do is you want a bait that's going to move some fish or catch fish for you, then use it the way it should be. So I think the biggest thing when people are at this show is to take the time to talk to some of these guys and thoroughly learn these baits so that you're working them correctly. It's not about how you necessarily want to, it's, what you should be doing, in order to make the bait work in the situation you're fishing. So, it's kind of funny that, I mean, we're on this. You probably weren't ready, but I got to talk about this because this is a bait here. Taylor and I were talking the other day. One of the other baits coming is a small swim fin. Okay. And honestly, when I first saw this bait, I looked at this bait and I threw it out and I did the typical thing is I try to swim it just like a swim bait. Whether you're throwing a swimming dog or a Rusty's crackhead or whatever, you know, we swam them. But this is not a bait that I think that's really strong at swimming. And I think Taylor, watching the way you work this bait this is a different dimension in swim baits, and maybe you can explain this.
Yeah, so that we had the original 9 inchers were absolutely crushing fish. But then Brady ended up giving me a 7 inch to try out, and it was from the first day that I threw it, incredible. But what makes that bait special is that he has them weighted heavier in the head, so that with a slack line rip, you're actually able to walk that bait side to side and get that head dropping action that they love so much in that July, August, early September time. That small one, actually, I was very impressed with. It walks maybe even more than the 9 inch does. It's a little bit wider in the head, according to what the 9 inch would be, just a little bit wider. But that one is one that on like a high pressure, blue skies day, it actually gets a little bit deeper in the water column as well, just because it doesn't have as much surface area holding it up. And on the fall, it's also that tail is just ever going and just incredible action on them things. I fished those and it did not matter what color I was throwing with those, as long as you had somebody in the boat that could do that slack line rip and create that action, that walking side to side action with the head drop, they were going to catch a fish. It was just a matter of time. I absolutely love these things. These were one of the top baits in my boat last year. I had a 12-year-old kid, never caught a muskie in his life. He ended up sticking a 45 and a 34-inch tiger the first time he was ever out, but he threw that little 7-incher around for, I think, 7 hours, and he was, yeah, he did it the entire time, and great bait.
And that's the thing, it's funny what you just said, Taylor, you used it, you mentioned high pressure, which is usually a post frontal condition. I think most people come to the show looking for something that's a magic bait. And I think one of the things that people got to get, in their head is there's no such thing as a magic bait, but sometimes they're exceptional tools. And someone like you, to be, you and I have fished together, not only here down in, my neck of the woods, but also up in your area. And Taylor, you're very talented. I've told you, I think guys like you and Gus, you're out there, you're putting the time on the water, and you're doing things differently than a lot of muskie guys. There's a lot of guys that want to take people out and fish the spots. the way you break down location, is tremendous, Taylor. You got it dialed in. You remind me, Tony Rizzo was an old school guide, but he was very good. Most of you all know who Tony Rizzo is. But I'm gonna tell you what, you're kind of like Tony Rizzo with technology. You understand location, you understand what you're looking for in any given presence. And I've been with you enough in the boat to watch. And you know what? If any people watching this, if you want to hire a guide, I would, I know you guys are sitting right here, but both of you are very impressive.
I got
Hire this guy.
Gus
Yeah.
is phenomenal as well.
That's what I'm
I have
saying.
been
Both of
guided
you,
to fish in
I mean,
Gus's boat.
Vice
know,
versa.
and I meant that for both of you. I mean, Gus, look, Gus is an animal. I mean, how many days you put on the water last year, Gus?
I don't know, 200 something or more.
200 something.
Something. Lost
And Taylor
track.
was right there with you. He's always on
Absolutely.
the water to the
Yep.
point where he actually makes himself sick. Both of you guys, if anybody is looking for a knowledgeable muskie
Actually, when I was
guy,
live.
both of you are very impressive. And I can, I've been in this a long time, and you're definitely, both of you are special, at what you do, and I would recommend anybody to get in the boat with both of you guys. You're really good. You are definitely going to be the top muskie guides in the Northwoods, in the
Well,
future.
we got a ways to go, I think, but we're still learning every day on
Right,
the
well-
water, and we appreciate the compliment coming from you, Rich. That's a big one. So
Well, I've been I worked under Tony Rizzo, and I know what Tony was doing back in the days, and I see that in you. What I saw in Tony, when Tony and I go out, I see in both of you, and you're both, top notch. I'm not putting down anybody else. I'm just saying I've seen what it's like to be in the boat with both of you, and you're very impressive. But the key thing was you talked about, here's the thing with any of these musky baits we're talking about. They're not just a gimmick. They're just not, another bait to buy. They're a tool. And you talked about in high pressure system, when you're dropping this bait down and you're getting this thing to walk back and, getting this thing to walk back and forth, you're in their face. That the fish are in a negative state. This bait is in their face. It's the same thing with gliders. And if you look at the way things are in Wisconsin today, we've got to do everything possible to put a fish in a boat. It's not easy. And you guys seem to make it, you guys are consistent. You're putting the numbers of fish in the boat. And I think you both have a horseshoe in your asses, personally, is what I think. So
that's one thing I did want to say, Rich, about that bait is he does have two small hooks on that 7-inch swim fin.
Right.
I will tell you that for the majority of last season, I actually only ran 1 3/0 on the front hook hanger. That
Okay.
hook actually sets right about midway in the body, and as you guys all know, if you fish rubber, they absolutely crush rubber right in the head. They head hunt them all the time. These baits are no different. When we're throwing a lure that's, that 7-inch rubber style bait, they are going to get it down in their gullet, and that's not a great thing for the muskies. So if they are really feeding heavily, that one hook is a lot better off as far as mortality rate, and we do care about the fish going back safe. So we do just want to catch them, not kill them. So if you can get away with it, definitely throwing just the one, like a 3/0 on that front hook hanger instead of both those small hooks and getting them way back or sticking them in the tongue.
Mm-hmm.
Penny, why don't you get some hooks and change that out for me,
Those are
okay?
2/0.
These are
She
two
just
aughts.
flipped me the bird.
This is 2/0 on that right now.
Yeah.
Yep. No, that's
On
cool.
the 7-inch.
What I'm going to do is I've got Gus, I've got 2 more baits here, 2 more glide baits. I mean, as we're talking about these baits, look, you know, some of these baits we're talking about, we get asked questions, what they've got, who each company's got at the show, what baits are they bringing. That's why they're getting talked about too. I use these baits myself. They're good quality baits. There's a lot of good quality baits at the show. It's not just these, but there is no way possible we can talk about everything that's at that show. Best thing I
Oh,
can
right.
recommend is you come to the show and see it for yourself, and you'll see what we're talking about. But the next bait I'm gonna kind of bring up, everybody's familiar with the six sucker, but this is called the fortune teller. And there's a reason why I'm showing this, and I have shown it, is because I always thought that the six sucker was probably the better glider that Rusty would make, Rusty's Custom Lures. But I'm gonna tell you this bait here. God, it's so funny to even say this, but the six sucker is a great bait, but this one is even better. And I ignored this bait for 2 years. It's a slower working bait. It's got a beautiful belly roll as well as hang time, and it's very controllable. And when a fish are in a neutral to inactive state, this has been an excellent glider to use. As is the thing with a Conklin pedigree, you can move that bait quicker. You can use it for searching for neutral fish, during a high pressure system. But when you want to get in their face, this bait is an excellent bait to use. And the reason I'm bringing that up is, like Mike Conklin, and he does the same thing, Rusty is really big when kids are in need. Rusty, for some reason, he gets wind of some kids that are, have had problems or not a good home life, or, they're sick, I've got, some health issues. Rusty, and even guys like Mike, donate, they'll make a bait because they've got such a name, they'll make up usually something special. And this here is like I think a one of a kind. I think he's going to actually make more because people have seen this. This picture does not do it justice, but this is a bait, that was made for Matt and Jen Lazarski's, daughter, in name of their daughter. Um, you know, Delia Lazarski she's 11-year-old little girl, and she has what's called Ogden syndrome. Now, if Matt was a movie star or, had an influential name, in politics, you can bet your booty that they would know, everybody would know about that, that disease. And, it affects, Delia in a lot of different ways. It's like a little girl, who wants to live life and is trapped, within this body because of this disease. And the thing is about Matt Lazarski, Matt, is the co-owner of Taps and Tackle in Stevens Point. They've got a really cool store. They have craft beer there as well as custom made musky baits. They're really good people, but Matt is always reaching out, helping other kids. I mean, he takes very good care of his daughter and his own kids, but a lot of times he's always there to help other kids, taking them out fishing, introducing them to the sport, teaching them things. He's always there helping somebody, but never asks for help for himself. And so, Matt can tell you the specifics. The baits, what they're going to do is they're going to raffle these baits off. I guess you can bid on these baits. I know that, this this fortune teller that Rusty has made, you can bid on this. It's kind of interesting. These can be a real pain to get, Rusty's baits. And for giggles, I was doing a seminar in Chicago, and so I raffled off a six sucker, and that bait, it was at the Midwest Muskie Club that we were at, that I was speaking at, and that bait raffled off for $450. And in some clubs, I've seen where they've raffled up as much as $800. Rusty baits, Conklin baits, different baits bring quite a bit of money. But whether it's going for stocking for muskies or helping a little girl, or a child that's in need, you know, these guys step up to the plate. We've got a lot of good people at the show that do that. So these are
That's
the
awesome.
behind the scenes that people don't even realize this goes on.
Hmm.
So there's a lot of good things that come out of that show besides buying musky baits and watching seminars.
Right.
So Rusty will be there. Might as well, I'm talking about Rusty. This has been the talked about bait. I have used this, and this is called a shart. And it looks like it's kind of goofy, like kind of hokey, but it's not. It's got, it's SHART is an acronym for, I forget, it was like a short ass rat, something or another, but this bait works very well as a flap tail. There's multiple sounds. Actually, you can count between 7 and 8 sounds off this bait. The guys that had them, caught and moved fish on them, some decent fish, big fish. There's two sizes. There's this as well as the fart. Okay. Only Rusty could get away with naming baits the way he does. But this actually works really well coming in the water and it's got a tremendous sound. So I think there's going to be a limited amount of those as well. And, but not only does Rusty make some quality baits, but he also, he puts his money where his mouth is and he helps a lot of people in return. So
Hmm.
the last bait I'm going to it's not really a glide bait, but this I definitely want to show. This bait was, definitely a hot number in my boat last year. This is called a dive and glide. I don't know if you had a chance to fish this, Gus. I think Taylor, did you not use this?
Yeah, I saw it in action.
Yeah, it's got a beautiful, beautiful action to it. It's not just that it was beautiful, but it was also action wise, but it put a fair amount of fish in the boat. The people that were in the boat with me, that got to use this bait and catch fish on this bait have got a waiting list already, when they, for top line baits, when they get to the show. It's definitely, it's got a unique action, but it's got a very cool, the action is tremendous on this bait. And it's called a dive
Hmm.
and glide. So,
I dig that. I don't think there's many on the market like that. I know there's one other that I used that was a dive and glide. I think it was like Widowmaker tackle or something like that, or
right.
I can't remember, but I used it in a river situation with my buddy Rowan, and I remember it was extremely important that like the fish were keyed in on gliders, but the water was so cold that if you let a glider sit too long, it would end up just start dragging on the bottom and the fish would lose interest. But the fact that the your bait you could keep it gliding and it would come back up was key. That's how we got one. So a bait like that, um,
All I
I
know
could
is
see
this
being
was
really, really good late season river
yeah,
bait
this bait was
specifically.
steady producer for us last year. I was fortunate to have them and to fish with them in the boat. So, you know, um, the other bait we got here, and I know you're familiar with this one, Gus, and
Oh boy.
so is Taylor.
I see. That's the color. That's the color that I like. We have a bunch of names for it. Like I had one dumb name, I can't remember it, called ICP, like an ice cold perch from TRO, like that, or Rocktoberfest. That has caught a lot of muskies in my boat, and Taylor has one right here that has caught him a lot of muskies in his
You know
boat.
what? That one that Taylor has, that bait was my bait when Taylor was doing the 10 days of the Musky Expo. I said, Taylor, I've got one. These are hard to come by, and I think you can attest to that, Gus. They're
Yes,
not easy to come by. And Nick Ambrose, that makes this, I mean, he's very meticulous. His paint jobs are second to none.
he's getting better.
Huh?
He's getting better. We were just at a shop, like we said earlier, at the Nick Ambrose fan club headquarters, and it's remarkable what he's come. He has a ton of walleye and ton of perch, but he is again, a bunch of one-off ones that he'll probably never make again that are just gorgeous. He's doing really well.
Yeah, Nick's attention to detail is almost
He
annoying.
he was showing us he'd show us two of the same bait and he's like, "See the difference here? Do you see the difference here?" And we're all just like, "No. They
No,
both look
they
awesome."
both look great. Best bluegill I've seen.
Right? Yeah,
I
he's got a
had to
bluegill
show
coming
this
out that's
because this
unreal.
bait is, it's just, we showed this bait last year, but I guess that's what it is. We want Nick to keep making these and keep him going because it truly is a really good musky bait on the market. And I've
Yes.
actually been after him to make a larger one.
So
Actually, the
that's
one that Taylor was using at caught fish, I gave that one to Taylor and he wouldn't give it back to me.
I don't see
So
why he would give it back.
you're not getting it back. That thing is one of one, and I actually will give credit to Gus for like, yeah, you gave me the bait, told me about it. You could kind of see that it was, with the shape of it, that it was going to do some belly roll stuff. It was going to do some side to side stuff. But on a trip with Gus, we spent what 4 days together in a boat, and that bait was absolutely on fire. Moving fish all over the place, catching fish all over the place. They were just loving it. So that gave me a lot of confidence in that lure, and then I brought it back up to Wisconsin and absolutely hammered fish on the hammer. So yeah, and it's great. He has an adjustable weight system in that, so you can really tune that bait into what you want and with the structure you're fishing. And I will say that I have not had a bait that you can twitch that thing and you can get it to move side to side at the same time. When you leave that thing pause, it will on its own completely turn sideways, which is a trigger in its own. It is just,
Yeah.
it is unreal.
It'll like here since we have video, I can actually show it for
Look
once.
at this.
Usually it's a podcast. I'm like, you just gotta take my word for it. But like, say you dive it, and I think I can. Yeah, there we go. And it's gonna rise as it's rising up. It'll like turn,
right.
go broadside on fish. And I've actually seen this bait. If you let it rise up enough, it'll turn and go broadside and turn back the other direction.
Yeah.
And it's unreal.
It's wild. And I can say, and I'm sure Gus can attest to this, that so I actually had a lot of messages because I was posting, fish caught on a hammer jerk, fish caught on a hammer jerk. A lot of messages from people asking how we were working those. I think a lot of people were overworking them. That kind of goes back to what Rich was
I
saying
agree.
earlier about each bait being an individual. Little tiny short taps of that rod tip and even like little tiny uprips really got that bait to do some squirrely stuff. And then in
Taylor,
the
what were you throwing it on? What rod and reel setup were you throwing it on? Because that seems to be a big importance for glide baits and dive and rise baits too.
Yeah, absolutely. That's
Good
great question
question,
there.
Max.
Um,
First one,
so I
nailed
was
it.
throwing like a medium heavy to a heavy like a 8.6 or an 8 foot, um, and then a 300 size reel, PC Fun reel, and that I think a lot of it too is it's very important to have the leader that matches the bait as well. I was throwing that on like a 7 to 9 inch, like a Pandemonium Roswell leader.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think with all the 10 footers and everything out on the market these
Oh,
days,
can't use that with
it's
this.
too
Too
much
much.
too much horsepower for some of these smaller dive and rise baits and glide baits.
Yeah, I think I got away with sometimes using like an 8.6 medium heavy, but a lot of times I use like a 9 foot heavy, which is like a pretty good backbone and try not to overwork it. And in the late fall, like the colder the water gets, I really like it as just like a pull bait where you just pull with the rod tip and you're not going, these aren't fast sweeps by any means, but it's every time you pull, you can feel it in the rod tip if you have a sensitive enough one that like it wiggles like this, like a crankbait. It'll
Swims,
wiggle, swims,
swims.
wiggles,
That's
not
right.
waggles.
That's exactly it. It's
And
got a tremendous and unique action to it, but again, it's one of those limited baits, and a lot of guys go, man, these gliders and these jerk baits cost so much money today. Well,
well,
it's because they put so much work into them.
well, not only do they put a lot of work into it, and it would be, crazy if everybody knew exactly how much time some of these guys spend building these baits, but there's the way they build them, they last so many fish, way more fish than any other bait that you can just buy from like a box store. Like these fish will last 20 plus fish or
Yeah.
more, 30 and going each. I think Taylor and I, both of our hammer jerks have,
At least 25 fish.
yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, if I don't know if you guys can really see that well if you are watching on the YouTube or whatever, but this thing, yeah, it's got scratches in it, but you can't even really see the hook rash on this thing. I mean, it just, you can see a little bit towards the end, towards the tail there for hook rash, but I mean, this thing, you can feel it. It's got scars all over the back and whatnot, but these baits really hold up, and that's the difference in the small batch builders and the detail and attention to detail that they put into these lures and the effort that they go through to make sure that they have a product that lasts.
Well,
This is another hammer right here that I don't know if you have, Rich, with you any of these, but Nick's obvious at this point most known for his hammer jerk, the dive and rise. He makes a glide bait as well, called the fill that we've talked about here, but not many people know that he makes a chain hammer and a jackhammer, which are his mainly what's built for trolling crankbaits. He's actually making them now all with metal lips for all you trollers that like to troll on rocks. You can see the hammer right there that he's got imprinted right onto the
that's
lip,
pretty
which is
cool.
pretty awesome. That's a nice touch. I really like that. But this one did really well for me. This is like his orange belly walleye that he's gonna have in all of his a pattern for all of his baits. This one trolled up a beautiful like 43 and a half early in the year, and a couple in the fall. And he makes one smaller. This one's like, I don't know,
9 inches?
9 inches. There's a
Ish.
yeah, because the hammer jerk's 8 and a quarter or so. I put out a picture once of like it compared to a 9 inch Suic and an 8 inch Navin. But his chain hammer's smaller. It's probably 6.5 inch or so, 7 maybe. But they're phenomenal trolling baits. He's getting them dialed in. I've been using them for probably going on 4 years now, and we've been working through how to get them to troll fast, troll well, walk, have some tighter wiggle. But they're great. I like them a lot.
Now,
He's
Nick
gonna have
is a
very
very
limited
talented
amounts.
bait builder. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah,
No doubt
absolutely.
about it. You know, you're
He's gonna,
mentioning
yeah.
trollers.
Mm-hmm.
Here's another one. This is a Ridgeway custom.
The six
Aluminum
inch
lip in
soft
it.
tail,
But it's, huh?
6 inch soft tail, because he had the seven
Yep, it's
inch.
a 6 inch. He's never had a 6 inch on the market. We got to play with this bait. It's dynamite. It's dynamite. I think Taylor's
Mm-hmm.
got one there. I would think he's
I think
got one
he's
there.
I think he's digging for one. He brought a box.
Not to hook myself, everyone.
Yeah.
This is a metallic silver he makes, but
Oh, is that a 6?
Mm-hmm.
there you go. There's the walleye pattern. I think that'll be a killer on the Eagle River chain. What do you think, Gus?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. The Eagle River
Yes,
chain feeds off of 6 to 7 inch baits like it's nobody's
exactly.
business. It's
But
great.
these are debuting at the Wisconsin Musky Expo. These he's been playing with these for 2 years, and he's going to release them this year at the expo. So
Yeah,
this is a
that's
Ridgeway
awesome.
Customs. So
Love the Ridgeways. Yeah.
excellent.
It's
You know, and Matt Ridgeway and his brother Charlie are great people. And they're from Iowa. A lot of people are not familiar with Ridgeway, but they need to be because, like Nick, they're both great bait makers. So
That's the Ridgeway boys also, they have a whole lineup of crankbaits, twitch baits.
a
And
they
glide
do.
bait too that nobody really
yeah,
knows
I'm
about.
not
I've
sure
never
if
used
Charlie
it.
made too many of them for show season this year,
Oh,
but
okay.
they're big twitch baits. They have a 10 and a 9, but they move an awful lot of water, and they'll beat you up a little bit, but if you decide to be a man, they catch some fish, and I've seen some fish do some absolutely crazy things on them, just coming unglued on them. So not only are they great people selling them, they are great baits that move a lot of water and move a lot of fish as well.
Yep. No, I agree with that. Um, we kind of jumped. We did the minnow bait thing. I've got one more. I've
I
got
would
one
before we
more.
move too far on, I
Oh,
totally forgot about this and I didn't want to get way beyond this. If you
oh,
are gonna get a hammer jerk and you look at the tail of his bait, typically when you see a tail on the back of a dive and rise, you think to bend the crap out of it like a suic or whatever.
Oh no.
I highly recommend not touching this at
Yep.
all, ever on the hammer jerk. He
I
has
agree
them all.
100%.
Every single one of his baits are tuned before and after they are painted and epoxied.
Yeah.
So
No,
Definitely a good point.
good
And
point.
you can actually change the action more so of that hammer jerk with that screw in weight and
mhm.
changing the weight system in there more so than you could do any other way.
And it's the
So,
same weight system you'd get for a Suic or
yeah.
whatever, the 7 millimeter thread or whatever they are.
I'm gonna make sure this one gets back in my box so Gus doesn't end up with a
I need a natural color. My ice cold perch is great and all, but I need a natural one.
No, I understand.
Yeah.
Well, there's one other, it's not really, I'm gonna show this bait. He's new to the show. He's been on the waiting list and his number finally came up. And he last year he came to the show and he brought his baits up because I was familiar with the baits, but I really hadn't seen them, up close and touched them. This is made by Dominate Bait Company, and it's called the Bandit. Uh, Not only do they look good, but they have a good action to them. I would classify this bait similar to a Pandemonium SRJ, and in that family. And I think, I put some time on it. Where I spend my time, this is, I think, a clear to stained water bait. I fish a lot of dirty water, but I know Gus, I know Taylor had put some time on this bait. I'm gonna let Taylor, you can talk about this a little bit.
Yeah, I think that's a very special case kind of bait where I'm not gonna go out searching for a fish with that. It's very slow and meticulous. It's little tiny taps to the rod. It makes it kind of dive and glide. It'll shoot to the side. It'll shoot to the side at the same time. But it's a slow, and I think something that would be very good in like a cold water scenario. It does not have quite the erratic action as like you had mentioned the SRJ does. But it's definitely something that looks really, really nice coming through the water, and I think it'll be a great bait.
What's the depth range on it?
That's honestly, it all depends on what you want to run it as. I mean, you could run it
Exactly.
a foot underneath the water if you want, or you could get down that probably 3 foot, 4 foot,
Okay.
if you really want to dig it in.
Fairly shallow. I wasn't
Yeah.
sure if it was one of those that like you could work the crap out of it and get it almost 10 feet like what we saw to the XL dipstick
No.
last fall, where we could get that thing 12 plus feet down on a bomb cast.
Right.
Interesting you say that, Taylor, because the guys that fished this around this area last year in my neck of the woods did phenomenal with these early cold water, and it caught a lot of big fish, decent fish, 45 inches and better. You know what I mean? So it put a lot of fish in the boat, but as it warmed up, then they moved on to their faster moving, jerk baits and minnow baits and so forth. But the craftsmanship of this bait is tremendous, and he's going to have a booth there this year. Okay. So you were talking about crankbaits before. Here's one that a lot of people are not aware of. This is made by Trevor Allen, and this is just a trophy time crank. This is the 5-inch. I have done fairly well with these, and it's amazing to me how many few people know about this bait. But it's a bait that normally, let's say if I've got people in my boat that if they're throwing a bucktail, I'll usually have somebody backing it up with a crankbait. It runs a little bit deeper, gets down. It's got a tremendous action. They hunt well, and it's just a well-made bait, and not many people know about these. And we haven't really shown them, but I'm putting it out there. You'll find these, I think, over by the Chaos booth. That's where Trevor works for. As most people know, Trevor, he works for Chaos. He basically takes care of Chaos, and recently KS sold along with Muskie Mayhem and Muskie Innovations, I guess, and Trevor's going to be the kingpin, which, of the three biggest bait companies out there, I think he's going to do a good job. Good kid's pretty smart. So
Sweet.
it's amazing. On Facebook, you watch these guys and they're ready. The Monday morning quarterbacks are ready to crucify everything. But, they have a lot to say, but they don't know much about the business, but they got plenty to say, And
Right. People did have a lot to say on Facebook.
what's that?
Over the last month, people have had a lot to say about a lot of things on Facebook. It's pretty funny.
Oh my
Welcome to
God.
wintertime.
Well, everyone's
Yeah, no
bored.
kidding. I think, what, people should just, they should just worry about going fishing and catching muskies and having a good
Yeah.
time on the water instead of, sitting on bitch box and complaining all the time,
There it is.
Yeah.
So another bait that's coming out, we were talking about the SRJs before from Pandemonium. A lot of people, some people are familiar with SRJs, tremendous bait. Gus Taylor was one that really got me turned on to the SRJ, and it definitely has its place. And then I got to meet, where I spent some time with Kevin. They make a really good bucktail, very good bucktails. But one of the baits I was able to get my hands on is their new walk and spit. This is a walk the dog bait, and it's a bait. Walk the dog baits, were at one time pretty popular years back, and they're starting to work their way back. But this one here is very unique. It's a smaller walk the dog bait, which I like. The way that it's made, this thing has a tremendous sound coming off this bait, and the fish love this. I'm so thankful that I was able to get my hands on these. The fish, at least in the river, love them, dark water. But this is called a walk and spit. They're going to be limited, just like the SRJs, and it's one of those places you definitely want to grab. It's amazing to me how many, fishermen today, younger fishermen, it's like they fish bucktails and they fish rubber or they fish gliders. But all baits have their place. And, there's definitely a time that, especially in the spring of the year, I really like throwing walk the dog baits in tough conditions. I've seen in post-foam conditions where a walk the dog bait will bring a fish up when nothing else will. And it kind of goes against the grain of throwing topwater because, I talk about the strike zone, but for whatever reason, walk the dog baits seem to bring fish up when it's a topwater that will bring fish up when other baits won't even move a fish. So it's amazing how many, baits have been lost through the years. Like this one here. We showed this last year, but I'm going to show it again. This is an old school bait right here. This is called a cyclone. It's a globe type lure. It's amazing how people in Minnesota have kind of gotten on these. I mean, Max, I'm sure you probably see quite a few of these, don't you? Around Minnesota?
A little bit. Minnesota people like the big MK65 flaps, it seems like, and bigger prop styles. But I've seen a couple of the globe styles floating around for
A lot of
sure.
those guys, they go for the custom baits, but this bait has been big. This was a Wisconsin favorite years ago. And some of the guys in Wisconsin were throwing this year. They did well with these. They caught a lot of fish, especially in northwest Wisconsin. But it's a bait worth checking out. I mean, I've taken a fair number of fish on globe type lures, and it seems to have gotten lost in the pipeline with musky fishermen today. But I know that in Minnesota, some of the boys are throwing like some of the custom baits, over there, that come from Wisconsin, and they do pretty well with them over there. The other hard bait I'm going to show is people have been questioning about Booker tackle, and got some bucktails here and stuff. but this is one of the new top raters that are coming out. They'll have at the show. Okay. A lot of people, the key thing about the top rater, which made the top rater a great bait, was the rattle inside the bait. I don't know if you can hear that or
Before,
not.
I'm not sure if it'll go through. I know, I actually last fall, I think it was before Booker tackle sold. I was at Ross's sports shop
Right?
for the first time, and he had a wall of top raters, and I picked up every single one, and none of them rattled. And then all of a sudden, there's this custom painted one just hanging in the corner, and I pick it up, and she rattled, and I'm like, oh, that's an oldie. So I snagged
Oh
that
yeah.
one right away last fall. But
A lot of old
if
timers know
somebody
about that.
knows who painted this one, please let me know. It was at Ross's. It's pretty sweet.
I've seen that color before, and I think that possibly that came from the painter from the prior company that was making those. If I'm not mistaken, I
Oh
might be,
yeah.
yeah, but they had a Psycho Frog color that was pretty hot, and everybody sucked those up. But the new guys that have bought Booker Tackle, they're good bunch of people, and I think they're musky fishermen, and they want to do some great things for the company, and I think they'll do it. I think you've both of you've had a chance, I think, to meet the owners, at
Not in
least one of them.
person. Not in person, but I've messaged with both of them, and they're great guys,
Yeah,
Mike and Terry.
Taylor, I think, has met with one of them.
Yeah, I met Mike down at the Chicago show when we were down there, and he was just going over kind of the stuff that they were really, really getting into, and it was basically taking a company that had kind of lost its way for a little while, and the production was there, but the quality wasn't. They want to bring back that old school kind of small bait feel to a big company, and I think that they're doing it exactly how they
The
need
right
to.
way.
Yeah, and they're bringing back the good stuff. They're listening to the fishermen. They're listening to people that are on the water, and I think they're on the right track. So that is very, very good to see from Joe Booker Tackle.
Yeah, so definitely stop by and see them. They're going to have they'll have a booth there at the Wisconsin Muskie Expo, and it'll give you a chance, Gus. You'll have a chance to meet both of them. So, you know,
Look forward to
um,
it.
huh?
I look forward to it for sure.
I didn't
Yeah.
put a lot of bucktails out here. I mean, in Wisconsin, bucktails are like peanut butter and jelly, but it's always worth mentioning. Gus,
Hmm.
both you and Taylor have been huge in the development of this company. This here is a 810 Huntsy tail. And I think you can talk about this bait quite a bit. Um, this is the 810. I'm kind of favorable to the 7.8. I also had a chance to play with some other prototypes that are smaller. Yeah, you got them there too. Look at that thing.
Yeah, that's an 810 in the Sugfest color. This one was ran last year and caught quite a few fish up to 45 in northern Wisconsin. So do not be afraid of the 810. This was actually pretty much only ran in northern Wisconsin for me. And it crushed fish down to even, 30, 32 inches. It didn't seem to matter. Fish were just eating the snot out of it. And we can't, I mean, we throw these and they catch fish and they do exactly what they're meant for, but we can't take, full credit of getting the name out there for these. These just kind of make a name for themselves. They catch a ton of fish. Kyle does an extremely good job, and there's some guys that used these before they're on the market that crushed way before anybody else. For example, who we just had on lately was Clayton Speece. Him and
Yep.
his tournament partner Nick, they hammered on Hunty Tales before Hunty Tales was Hunty Tales. So
No, I understand. But the interesting about Huntsy tails, a lot of people they look at a bucktail and they say, "Oh, a bucktail's a bucktail." Fact of it is, they're not. I've had many conversations. I'm pretty well versed as to what Kyle has done to build this bait, and it's truly a tinsel tail that has a tremendous amount of sound. And what I mean by that is when a bucktail travels through the water, And I know you younger guys say, well, where did you get that from, Rich? Years ago, we had access to high frequency sound equipment. And because of it, can you get that one, Bucktail? The Musky Buster that's hanging. So we used to have a bucktail on the market it's called a Musky Buster. And this is back in the early 80s. And when that bucktail came out and local people were fishing that, there was a tremendous amount of big fish caught on it. And we wanted to understand why. Fish are, listen, a bucktail doesn't look like anything that's, in the water ever made. This is an original Musky Buster, okay? And the Musky Buster, what happens is when these blades are spinning around, and it's not to take anything away from Huntin Tail, but he's done some things to that Huntin Tail, okay, that creates sound and vibration. Whereas a lot of tinsel, you know, people jumped on this tinsel bandwagon, and I think you're going to see more hair coming back. But in this case, this is a bucktail we used to make. It was called a Musky Buster, and it's been sold a few times, and now it's sitting idle. But we made this, like I said, back in the late 70s, early 80s, mid 80s. Well, there's a gentleman that's making that bait right now again, and his name is Kyle Freilich. And I don't know, am I holding this up right, Gus? You see that?
Yeah. Go up a little higher to see like the hook and the
There you
hair.
go.
There you
So
go.
it's a little bit more flare, but we had a different system on this, but he's close, but does a great job. These are limited, okay. Cal's out of Rhinelander, Wisconsin. It's called K&M Bucktails. And if I'm not mistaken, they'll be in the Taps and Tackle booth. You can, pick them up there, but he does a phenomenal job. I can tell you this bait through the years has caught a tremendous amount of muskies as well as big fish. And Kyle basically has resurrected this bait and is doing a great job with it. So, but back to the Huntsy tail, there's a lot of guys that have got tinsel out there, but Kyle's bait is truly everything about the way this bait was built, for sound. This bait does it, and it's proven itself to have caught. It catches a lot of fish, but it not only a lot of fish, but big fish as well. For the short time
Huge.
that this bait's been on the market, it's dominated the tinsel market. Would you agree?
Yeah. Yeah, quite a bit. I got the original, the first ever Huntsy tail I owned, which is what would be considered the original Sugfest, which is just the gnarliest, nastiest color. I still think it's not even that lovely of a color to look at, but the fish and in the water eat the crap out of it. It's got gold, white, orange, and a little bit of black in the skirt. This one doesn't have any left. This is the original one
Actually,
that it's just
that Gus, that color, actually, the contrast on that color, when I saw it and you described it, it's not, even Kyle said the color, it's not that good looking, but it doesn't matter whether I think it's good looking, it's what the fish see it as. And I believe in contrast. I mean, it's good, but I think the boom
it's
sauce is still probably better. You know
oh,
what I mean?
I don't know why I still have you on the big screen for that when I didn't know you were gonna say that.
Boom sauce
Fair.
2.0, baby.
Harsh but fair. The 2.0 is a lot better than 1.0. I'll give you that.
2.0
Yeah,
was a
but you know
little
what?
better.
Oh my God,
Let's
here we
let's
go.
not.
It's because
If-
you
if we-
finally put copper in it to make it look good.
We talk too highly about Rich's color, and he ain't gonna be able to fit through the door tonight. So,
Oh boy. You know, speaking of tinsel, I'm going to bring this one out here. Here's one of those companies that don't seem to get a lot of accolades or whatever. What? Accolades. This is called a seeker. This is a seeker. It's a treble
That's a
hooked spinnerbait.
springy tackle.
Springy tackle, exactly.
I could go
For the
find one.
guys that know what this is, and they see him at the show, Micah makes these. He's got a lot of different sizes. It's kind of interesting. He's got a willow blade, with a teardrop magnum on the front of it. Um, He has a lot of different sizes. I can see, Gus, that you using something like this in some of the deeper, clear lakes that you're fishing up there. You know, what do you think?
I like it.
Yeah,
Eh,
so that's
Tight squeeze
definitely,
it
you
here.
want to stop by and check this booth. There's a lot of guys at the show here that just don't, a lot of people are not familiar with. Oh, heck. There you go. Look at you
Yeah.
go.
White. Yeah. They can, you can remove these willow pieces on the back. So like they'd spin and you can remove or keep that on. So
It's
they're
funny, a
pretty
lot of
nice.
guys, some of these like guys, these smaller bait companies like yourself, you're familiar with these baits. And a lot of people out there, they go to like a Fleet Farm or they're gonna go to, whatever, Dick's Sporting Goods or, wherever they
Scheels.
Cabela's, and they buy musky baits that are there. But I think some of these baits you'll find at the show are really the cream of the crop of some of the baits that are on the market today, really. What do
Yeah.
you think of that?
You could fill your whole box up going there. Cause I mean, we're talking about the ones that are built by pretty much one man armies. But then, of course, when you go there, you also have Team Round Outdoors that outfits for
Oh,
you with whatever. You got Musky Innovations, with rubber. You got Chaos that also could outfit you with
Everything.
everything. And another one that I don't think was brought up before, and I meant to bring it up when we were talking about rubber before, but Red October Baits is going to be at the Wausau show, which I don't think they've been to the Wisconsin Musky Expo in a long time. And one bait that I think people should look out for is that they make mini tubes that are
yep.
pretty dynamite.
Red October is going to be there. It was a logistics thing, Mark Arena was a school teacher, and it was a case that the show was like 3 days. And when he would get done with the show, he had to get back to New York so he could teach. And, so it made it really hard for him. But, it seems lately he's got the crew. And so he's definitely back. He was at the Muskie Bash back years ago during the COVID years and he was able to be there. And he's been wanting to come back, so he's definitely back. The tubes are excellent; they always do well there at the show. At least the year that he was there, tubes do. Red October is the original, basically the original tube on the market. Muskie market. And he's always innovating and making new stuff all the time, so I don't know. I think Taylor, you're more of a bulldog and Medusa. I think you're now a swim fin guy. I mean, you're pretty deadly with that swim fin.
Yeah, I really I understand, people throwing tubes and catching a lot of fish on tubes. They are very unpredictable in what they do as far as their action. And I know Gus swears by them, Clayton swears by all these guys catch a bunch of fish on them, but um, I mean, I, for the most part, just stick to like a Medusa. I can weight that in the head and I can get it to walk. And same with like the pit bulls, for Muskie Innovations or Team Rhino Outdoors. You can get them to walk side to side, or that swim fin, you can get to walk side to side. So if you're working those baits right, you can do that kind of same thing. But the tubes are kind of in a league of their own as well with what they do. But um, no, I mean it's time and place, and what you're confident in, and what you're throwing is what you're going to catch fish on. So that's about the bottom line. But
Right. Well,
that's before we get off of the bucktail thing too. I do want to mention one other one that absolutely got hammered this year was the M9 from Team Rhino Outdoors and
yep.
Muskie Mayhem. That thing is a single number nine, and then they also have the M13 and the M7 as well. But those baits really did a number on fish this year. So them are my kind of go-tos was the Huntin Tales and then that M series from Innovation or from Mayhem and Team Rhino.
See, and that's the thing, like when people come to the show, we do have a lot of small bait manufacturers,
I've seen
but
that.
we do have Team Rhino Outdoors. We've got Ross's Sports Shop. We've got Taps and Tackle. So where you have the baits like that, the M9 and the M13, they've got a full lineup of those in Team Rhino. I would say, yep, there's a red October tube. I had one here. I think it got sniped. Oh, look at that. Yeah.
It's got a little dangle blade on there. Just trying to flash it real quick. Nothing too
Yeah, I seen
crazy.
that. You show that again, you know.
Okay.
Why don't you tell people, Gus, when you would use a tube with a blade with a willow versus a Colorado or a
hmm
tube without a blade? When do you decide to do those type of things?
A lot of tubes without a blade, we'll use in a lot cleaner situations, like not heavy weed edges or super shallow weeds. It would be like deep weeds. Get them along the break or outside the weeds on the break line. Rock bars. When you really want them to have a gliding action, as soon as you put a blade on them, the bigger the blade, the less side to side action you're going to get out of a tube. So take note of that. I switch my blades out all the time. Those that have hopped in the boat with me know that I use pretty much every single blade on the market, from musky type styles of Colorados down to, what you use for walleye baits. Basically, I'll use some that I'm pretty sure don't even put much vibration out in the water. All I do is flash and just have a little, like, little something to key in on. But I like a heavier blade. Two situations I'd use a bigger blade would be late fall when you want it to fall slow. The bigger blade allows it to fall slow. You can jig with it easy. You can sweep it and let it really hop up and down. And the other situation would be slop fishing, where it allows it to not dive so fast that you have enough time to keep ripping it and keeping it within the top 6 inches to a foot and a half of the water column, basically. But yeah, as soon as I take the blade off, that is when I'm specifically fishing deep. And as soon as I jig, I throw a blade on there. 100% of the time. I've tried jigging without a blade on a red October. I think it's doable. I've not caught one doing it. You end up just catching the leader most of the time because it's so erratic that it ends up catching on itself. So you almost need the blade to help it fall rather than just start twirling around, which is awesome. Great action. But those are kind of some situations I'd use them differently. And then tuning them is a whole nother ballpark. Sometimes you got to tune them after one fish, but sometimes you got to tune them out of the box too.
Maybe you should talk to Mark about coming out the Gus Manti version of Red October Tube, huh?
Yeah,
Related
that would
stories.
be pretty cool. So this is actually I don't really mind showing this. This is actually a very old one that I made. This isn't even close to how I make them anymore. I'm actually surprised this one still runs and doesn't fall apart. I've had a lot break on me, and over the years I've pretty much made it to a perfect system where you can have a blade rig in the back. You can cut the hooks if you have to cut hooks if it's hook deep, and you can take that tube rig or that blade rig and put it on the next hook, shrink tube it, ready to go. You don't even have to it's not like you cut the hook and then your bladed attachment's ruined forever. Um, you can basically make one blade attachment and it'll last you for years. So
Gus,
Max,
when
I know,
the oh, go ahead. Go ahead, Taylor. What's up?
I know Max had some success jigging tubes, whether it was PMTT stuff when you spilled your bubbler. That was a pretty funny video. But I know
put a
late,
zin in.
yeah, put a zin in. Late fall, I know you did some jigging and did really well, and actually
It was this one.
outfished live bait with the tube jig. So I mean, why don't you run that down for people?
Yeah, no, they're super versatile bait. Well, yeah, we can. I guess we'll talk about that real quick. But the one thing with jigging that Gus has kind of hammered into me, I mean, everyone that's done jigging, it can get really monotonous and boring after like 30 minutes of doing it. It's really easy to lose concentration. And one of the things is like those fish don't give you a great shot when they eat it because usually they're eating it vertical and they're pushing that bait up. And so you really have to be
You feel
conscious of what
slide
your
down,
line is
yeah.
doing. Because you can just miss the bite. I mean, so the biggest thing Gus has kind of taught me is when, you're lowering that rod tip to touch the water, get just above the water. You're not bringing it up too high. So if that fish hits at the top, you're not stuck and not able to set the hook. And then as you're kind of gently bringing that bait down, you're just trying to keep contact with the lure the whole time. So that line isn't totally slacked and then catching and then going taut when the bait hits at its lowest point. It just stays kind of at a nice steady, descent. And that way, when that bait's coming down, your line is staying in contact. And if you just see that line even just twitch, you know that a fish came up. And the funny story in Cave Run was, we were down there for, I don't know, Gus, was that day 4 that we were down there, and neither one of us had gotten a bite. And
Yeah.
yeah, day 5 or whatever. And when I was jigging, I didn't even feel the fish hit. It hit right at like kind of as I started to bring the tube down as I was jigging it. And I saw the line just completely go slack. And I just set as hard as I could because I knew something had eaten it. We're in 25 feet of water. And my bait's only, 8 or 9 feet down. And that fish just came flying up out of the water because,
Right
I'd
after hook
sit
set.
yeah, right after hook set. So yeah, that was my biggest thing was just kind of Gus is teaching me how to just maintain contact with that lure. And then Gus, I was going to ask you about the actual blade attachment. So I've had people ask me about this when I fish with them in Minnesota, but when we're running those tubes over weeds and you're talking about slot fishing with tubes and the blades as trailers, what size blades are you putting on? Because, I've noticed that people will use really small trailer blades on tubes to the point where it's really not even dragging much and the tube is working essentially like just a tube without a blade. So what size blades are you using when you want to fish them above weeds?
I'm pretty much actually probably not. I don't think I ever use willow blades because they spin so fast and keep the bait going deeper. I'm pretty much only using Colorado and deep cut Colorados. And for size, I would say 4, 5, and 6 sizes.
Yeah.
You could totally go larger. Um, that's just it becomes a lot of work, and I think it's a little bit overkill in some cases, but there's no perfect answer for this. I think I've heard of people throwing on 7s and 8s, mag 8s. But
That's a lot of work.
if you go
Yeah.
any more, yeah, I was gonna say that's like ripping, yeah, a really, really big crankbait all day, which is, harder to do than rubber. So I'd keep it in that modest state and then use a definitely an extra heavy rod and a fast reel. I typically use a 500 high gear and in the past all the years I've used either the new Blue Ox St. Croix rod, the 9 foot extra heavy, or their Big Dog 8.6 extra heavy. Sounds short, but if you're actually doing these short, um, I found that if you want to get these like short rips out of a tube, it's actually more beneficial to use a shorter rod. If you're using a 10 footer, you'd either overwork it or it would just be too slow because it's a lot of rod to be moving up and down and up and down um, in that case. So, but my favorite is the Blue Ox, the 9 foot extra heavy and holding the foregrip and putting a lot of force and a lot of slackline twitches in there. Um, and for the most part, they will headhunt the crap out of it or try to engulf it from behind. When you're talking about the jigging, Max, I can visually see in my head this one video. It's not a great angle so much, but I left the YOLO tech down, but I'm working a tube and I'm popping it just straight vertical and up and keeping it over weeds in like 10 feet of water or so, up halfway. And I remember just seeing right before my hook set, you can see the line do an S in the air. It's going from straight, and you can just watch. The rod tip doesn't go down or nothing. It's just the line goes completely limp. You can see it curl in different directions, and that's the bite. And there's a lot of cases to find that bite easier rather than just, ripping again and setting the hook, whether it's casting or
Yeah.
jigging.
I mean, when you're fishing with like all rubber baits, but tubes especially, it feels like you got to be really in tune with with where that bait's at because it does feel like you can miss fishing
Hmm.
tubes. I mean, that was a learning curve for us. I remember when we started fishing tubes, we dumped a good amount of fish.
Hmm.
Um, at the beginning, I think just probably not fully understanding on, where those baits were working and how kind of, what they were looking like down there.
I find it interesting that you guys are actually using a tube for jigging, which is very popular with bass fishing. But when we started using tubes, we actually used them like a jerkbait. We would actually use them like a glider, and we were pulling tubes and dropping them. Essentially, we would pull, take up and let them drop, and then pull them again. It actually got them to where we could get them to walk. The walk was erratic, but we were using them more like a jerk bait, where you guys, you know, are using them as a jigging bait. And I find it interesting that you've kind of gravitated to that versus, using them, like a glider in essence, you know?
Hmm.
So find that interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one kind of thing I have written in my head, to do more this year is to use the jerkbait style Red October, the shallow or the hybrid rig that
Right.
comes out of the nose. This run right here is mid depth. You see how it's at a 45 degree out of the front, rather as shallow and hybrid ones stick right out of the nose that I think are meant for exactly what you're talking about, Rich. Jerkbait style glider, um, slower, basically,
Right.
where this is full aggressive fishing, and I would say most muskies are getting a reaction strike out
Right.
of these.
Well, I agree with that. It's just funny, you look at the youth versus old timers per se, and how we would use baits or perceive to use the baits compared to the way they're being used today.
Baby.
So I'll tell you this, you mentioned Team Rhino. You know, there's, back in the day there was no such thing as a muskie shop, when I was younger. Actually I was very much involved with Raleigh Bessett when Raleigh and Helens came about. And at one point even worked for him. But I'll tell you, Team Rhino, I mean, if you're looking for custom colors or you're looking for, really hard to find baits, I think Team Rhino does an excellent job. And then when you're at the show, definitely stop in because he's going to have some baits that you've been talking about, that you brought up. He's got this company. He should have these. This is a slammer trailer. I don't know if you've seen this yet. Have you seen this yet?
I saw those online. That looks pretty sweet. I'd throw that on the back of a tube.
You could throw them on a tube. You can throw them on a crankbait.
Crankbait.
You can, trim them and put it on as a trailer in a bucktail. Like when you take the peat and wall flowage here, he's got these in various colors, but you take a white, trim it, and a bigger trailer on your bucktail seems to do a better job, in attracting fish to eat because it is very dark water as opposed to something that's smaller. And Bill's brought these out. Uh, Team Rhino will also be carrying the Slammer crankbaits, the full line of Slammer at the show as well. So he's going to have the Muskie Mayhem. He's going to have, the Slammer. He's going to have a lot of, D-ski
Pitbull.
baits, different baits that
Pitbull.
you mentioned. Huh?
And the pit bull.
And the pit bull. That's right. I think he had a big part of that pit bull, bringing that
Mhm.
out. Um, I got two other baits here I'm going to show real quick. And I showed these I left some of these in your boat last year, Gus, and you seemed to lightened up on this. A lot of guys would look at this bait right here and think nothing of this. But when you want to burn a little bucktail, especially in the late spring, early summer, uh, this is made by Indian Creek Bucktails. It doesn't look like much, but it sure catches a lot of fish. Penny, is staying here, and she never really threw marabou very much, but her first experience with this was 340 inches in a very short period of time on these little bucktails. But um, Judd Dvorak, I call him the marabou man. He does a super job at building baits, and he named this a Rich's Rocket. That was not the intent of this bait, but I had him make these because these do well in high pressured waters when you need a small bait, post front, you're trying to cover a lot of water. The water's cooler, unstable. We've done very well with them, so he'll have those there. And the other bucktail that is kind of interesting, I thought you might have had some interest in this, is this here. This is called a Coog. What was it called? Man. Anyways, it's made by Cougar Baits.
Uh-oh.
Man, it's been a long day today.
Let's see I know it's a little late at night for you, Rich. What's the whole bait? I've never seen that. I saw that in Scafe's video, but I didn't really fully understand
He's
that
got
one.
a little inline blade on the front, and then he's got a teardrop 8.
Hold it up higher, Rich.
Does that 8 tick on the small one? Yeah.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. And it feels really good coming through the water. As I mentioned before, when it comes to a bucktail, in order for it to make sound, I mean, something mechanical's got to take place. In this case, with this bait, he's got that teardrop number 8. He's got the inline. It's hitting that bait. It kind of sheds a little bit, the vegetation, but it's a nice bait coming through the water, and that's something to look for this year. And man, I remember it was, he just named this. Max is not one for naming baits, that's for sure. I've learned, but he's got some great ideas, and these can be found at Cougar Baits. So, like I said, you cannot possibly show everything. You've got Team Rhino there. You've got Ross's Sport Shop. You got Huntsy's going to be there. I mean, Bulldog and all these different companies. And besides guides like yourself, and there's a nice mixture of a lot of vendors there. I think Taylor this year, you're right next to. Did you look it up?
I didn't.
If you go to his site, it'll tell you. You're going to be next to Cougar Baits, I think, this year, and then it'll be Team Rhino, and it's Jeff Widman is a musky fisherman. He understands musky fishermen. He tries to stay on top of all the baits that are out there in the marketplace, and he does a great job. I would say Team Rhino Outdoors, and I would say probably Guide's Choice and Eagle River is probably. What are you laughing about, Taylor?
Nothing.
Don't tell me that Gus is pulling on you.
Yeah.
No, I'm not.
Lord.
I would say those are two shops that, are pretty, are doing a really great job as carrying what's going on in the musky fishing world.
For sure.
So
Absolutely.
Those are the baits I laid out. Oh, here you go. Well, that doesn't tell me anything. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have any more baits at all, Rich, or
Well, I mean, I could have brought on more baits, but I think as we've been talking about the different baits, I mean, why don't you give me that ruckus in the box? Have you seen that yet, Gus?
No, I don't think so.
It's the chatterbait penny. It's the black crappie.
Oh, I thought it was, or am I thinking of a different one? I thought, is it
No,
the Cougar
look at
Baits
this.
one or
Hey,
no?
here's another one of Nick Amrose's, baits. Look at this. Look at
How
the
on earth
fish
do you
on
have
that.
2 of them? I only have
Huh?
1, and I live 5 minutes from the guy.
Yeah, look at that baby. Isn't that nice? Yeah, and I'm
Yeah.
not giving him the Taylor either. He calls it a Coog Thumper. There we go. This here is a Coog Thumper. That's what he calls it. Coog Thumper. But here's the other bait that he makes. And this bait I did get to fish this year. And this here is a ruckus made by Cougar Baits. Okay. Am I up high enough? I'm going to show
Yeah.
you the blade. It's kind of funny. Penny's pointing to that, to the where the camera is. So definitely a unique blade, but it's also got a rattle on it. And I will tell you this: the fish that ate this bait earlier this year, this last season, they were very aggressive on it. You know, I mean, a chatterbait is something that's used a lot in bass fishing, but there's different companies that have made chatterbaits, for muskies, but this one's definitely a little bit different than the usual cut blade. This thing will rock your arm off. So,
Hmm.
that's a bait we didn't show, but I was also trying to be, very, careful. I mean, I thought we might go into more details of some of these baits, but um, I've got stuff here. A lot of people have been asking, I think, talking about that 40G line from Fins. They've got it in the 85-pound test. Okay. Um, a lot of guys have been using this 100. I mean, you're using the XS.
I've only used the XS. I've used the 40G for bass and walleye, and I really like it.
Yeah, they
Like
came out with a new
20
five
pound.
pound. This is the
Yeah.
interesting stuff about this. The XS you're using, there was a company, this company, Fins, is a house braid from a company that makes braid for a lot of other companies. And it's not like they're new to this. This isn't line from China. It's made in Erlanger, Kentucky. They've been making line for over 40 years. You can walk into a store and you'll see a bunch of braid on the wall. There might be a chance that, that BBS Tech made one of those braids. And it's a very real possibility. So that's why I kind of laugh when I see people on, Facebook talking smack. They don't realize maybe the one line they do like, basically, they may have made it, but yet it's under a different brand type thing. So,
Hmm.
um, this has been coming on real strong. I use the XS. There was an independent study done on XS from another company, and it was interesting. Just to give you for instance, 10-pound XS broke on a dead pull at 34.19 pounds. 10-pound braid
Hmm.
on a dead pull broke at 34.19 pounds. That's pretty
Yep.
impressive.
Yeah.
So, um, when a lot of guys I think are using braid, they're using the 80 and 100 because of the diameter of the line. In this case, the 40G, this is this is this is 85 pound and it's got a they say a 10-pound diameter. I think it's got more of a 12-pound diameter, but they have to go by international standards. But think about that, 85 pounds and it's got a 12-pound diameter,
That would
so
be a that would be a good small bait line for sure.
yeah. But there's
I
guys
wouldn't
that are
use
throwing
any
big
big
rubber
stuff.
with this stuff, with the 100.
Really?
Yes. Mike Thomas from Dorn
Mm.
Outdoor Pro, shop down in Madison. He's using 40G 100-pound, throwing big rubber. So
Huh.
that's for
Yeah.
sure.
Okay.
So, but I mean, there's just so much. There's all kinds of bait. What is this here? It's our, but you know what? The best thing to do here's Booker's new rhythm. I don't know if you've seen that yet. Have you seen that, Gus?
Yeah, yeah, I've talked to Mike about that.
Yeah. So that's the new rhythm.
I'm pretty pumped on that.
It's actually I've thrown this bucktail. It runs pretty good. It's got a 7/8. You can feel when it's coming around. You can feel that the blades are offset. So coming through the water, it's going to definitely have a different thump coming through the water, or actually
Hmm.
movement of the water. More so than anything. So but there's just so much stuff.
Awesome.
It's
Yeah,
just unbelievable.
there's plenty to do. I think a lot of people end up making a weekend out of it. I know you kind of mentioned speakers before. How do you go about choosing them and when they are? Taylor and I here will be speaking at the show, but how do you go about doing that?
Well, let me tell you. Let me ask you this: how many hours do you put? How many days you put? We mentioned how many days you go on the
Oh
water.
yeah, a lot. Too
200.
many to count.
You know,
200
here's the
something.
here's the whole deal with the musky fishing guide. You're on the water over 200 days. Taylor, he's out there just as much from morning till night. When you're on the water that much, you're going to learn things. You're going to observe things. You're going to learn things. You're going to learn how to work baits, or you're going to innovate things on your bait, like your blade on the back of a tube. You're going to do things, and those are things that you guys share. When you're doing a seminar, and so when I pick somebody out as a speaker, that's something that's really important to me. You're opening the show with Clayton Speece. Clayton's
Hmm.
a great musky fisherman. He looks like a kid, but he's 40 years old. Hard to believe.
He's
Um,
the same
but
deal. He's on the water a lot
that's the thing.
and very in
At
tune.
4:30 on Friday, Brian Schaefer, Jim Gallant. I think some of you guys have heard of Jim. He's kind of one of those guys that, he's real quiet, but some of you guys, come to Jim, and you will see if he's got openings. He's not a very vocal person, and that's why we've got him on a guide panel. But he's also going to Rob Mantha is going to join Brian Schaefer and Jim Gallant, at the 4:30 talk. And then at 6 o'clock, we were talking about Matt Lazarski. Matt Lazarski's he's a multi-species guide, but his partner Joseph, Wojowski or Wojciechowski,
I think we just call
nobody
him
gets that
Wojo.
right. I
Just call
think
him
he should just
Wojo.
change his name to Wojo, period.
Uh-huh.
It's a lot easier, but they'll be speaking, about, I think, Wisconsin River Muskies. Saturday, of course, Taylor's going to open, on Saturday.
Woo!
I'll be speaking at
Yay.
noon. Huh?
Woo, yay. I'll make sure
Oh,
I'm doing
yay.
something else during that time.
Me too.
I'm just kidding.
2
We'll see
o'clock,
him.
Brad Wirt, Sterling King, and Jason Bruggerman is a Green Bay biologist. They're going to be talking, I think, about catch and release, the proper methods on how to release the fish. And then at 4 o'clock, Noah Bensfield. I think most people are familiar with Noah. Noah's a stick. He fishes rivers. He's out of Minnesota. I think he would love to live in Wisconsin. But I'll tell you, he's got a lot of big fish under his belt. On Sunday, we got Mike Keys, and we're going to run him on Sunday. And that's basically the lineup. I really try to pick the guys I feel, that put the time on the water and are that can be able to teach these fishermen, how to, these little tricks that can help those people catch more fish. I think that's really important. We're talking about these baits earlier. There's a lot of different baits. And I've been doing this now. This will be my 58th season coming up. And baits have come a long way. But I've gotten to the point at my age that I've kind of dialed in baits that work well for me for the waters that I fish. Just as even like Taylor has certain baits that work for him in the waters he fishes. He's very adamant. He just doesn't. I hear so many fishermen today going, well, those guys are fishing those baits because the companies give them. Taylor's not built that way, and neither am I. I got to truly believe not only in the bait, but I got to believe in
I'm not.
the guy that's making the bait, and if he's got the right, if he's the he's the right guy or the right person. I mean, there's some people that they might have a good bait. I just don't, they just don't tickle my tonsil or tickle my fancy or whatever. But I gotta.
Whoa, Rich.
I know what you were thinking in your mind right there, Taylor.
No, he wasn't.
We won't say that on here. Oh man.
Don't say that on air, Rich.
I won't
Calm
say
down.
that on here. But what I guess I'm saying is everybody that's on this seminar schedule, I have respect for. They're good people. and they'll do a good job in teaching you. We've had other speakers that, do a great job. They'll come back in and out. I guess what I'm saying is Taylor's not a magazine fisherman, and neither are you. You guys are on the water all the time. I mean, even at my age, I'm still on the water. I was very, I had Taylor come down and fish with me last fall, on the river. And I don't know. I don't know if Taylor picked up anything. I sure learned a lot from him about my electronics, that's for sure. And, but at the same time, I'm familiar with the water I'm fishing, and I think Taylor could see that, but you guys are the future of musky fishing, as far as guides go. And you guys have a lot to teach some of these people, and you're willing to do that. And that's what's important when I pick out a speaker. I don't want a constant advertisement up there to, sell something. I know whatever you're using, you believe in, and you alter things to make them work so they work for your situation to put more fish in the boat.
Yeah,
That's important
absolutely.
for me.
Yeah, no, that makes sense, and I really like that lineup you have this year. I'm excited and I'm honored to be a part of it. To be honest, for Clayton and I, speaking on Friday, we're really pumped to start that off on the show and everything. But I don't know. I don't know if you have any more baits to add here, Rich, or anything you got, Max or Taylor, or if that kind of puts a wrap. I'm really excited. Thank you a lot for coming on here, Rich, and speaking about all these baits and showing them off. I hope people enjoyed this, first ever video of Muskies on Tap. But for the most part, I think it should come out pretty clean for those still listening on, Apple Pod and Spotify and without the video. But this will be on Muskies on Tap on YouTube. There's a page. There are, podcasts that get sent out there without the video. There's one video created ever by me on there about Cave Run. It was pretty much the Hammer Customs Fest on that, and Tube, and Red October Tube for that one.
Really good video though.
Thanks.
It was really good.
Appreciate
video.
that.
You did a good job.
Thanks.
Only took you like 6 years to do it, but you did really good.
Well, it's just another year or two in the middle of it. Might put out the rest of that year. Dreading the next stop of that PMTT here to put out there. Put Max on blast. Madison.
Max, do you always do they always pick on you?
No, usually it's
No.
Brian, but he's not here. So
Holy balls. You know what I like about your show here, Gus, Max, you guys, you say it like it is. You don't care. I mean, you kind of watch yourself, but you kind of let her fly. You don't care. You just let it. It is what it is. I mean, Taylor's been really a good boy tonight. He isn't really let loose yet, but and neither have I. So we've had quite the conversation some nights, and our wives look at us like, that's enough. We're leaving the room, so, but,
I don't blame them.
Yeah.
yeah. Taylor, I didn't get a chance to show you this. Been talking about the Wisconsin Musky Expo, but Taylor, that new flyer's out for Weg's Bait Shop, for April 18th. And, Taylor will be down here. I just bring this up because he's here. So I'm showing you what, the flyer looks like. And so anyways,
Where's
Taylor
that?
will be there. I'll be there for the guys that are, that live down in Wisconsin Dells, Portage, Reedsburg area, down that part of Wisconsin. We'll be down there giving a seminar at Wegs. I asked Taylor if he'd like to come along, and he accepted, said that'd be a good time anytime we can talk musky fishing, I think, with guys. I think that's I enjoy watching people catch extra fish, especially when they're doing it in my boat. I think you guys feel the same way. I know you do, and you go through great lengths to put an extra fish in the boat, and that's, It's important. So you guys are the future. You're the new musky guides of, coming up. Both of you.
We try to
We try our best.
we try our best. We get out there, we fish as hard as we can. We put people on as many fish as we can, and at the end of the day, we're guides, not gods. So
No,
we do what we
you're
can.
exactly right.
Boy, that's
You know
deep,
what?
Gus.
Well, I love that saying. I've seen that on
What's
shirts
that?
and stuff. The guide that we're guides, not gods.
That's
You know,
right.
like we can get people on fish, we can do our best, we can give them the best equipment we
That's all
have
you can do.
possible. Then it's up to the client at that point, you know. Um, and of course, have a great time on the boat too. In the
Yeah.
meantime, whether the fishing is good or tough. Um, so,
I
and I
think
would never
most
say
of the
bad
guides that are
because every day
most
in
of
the
the
water is
guides
good.
that are walking on the floor at the show, Jeff Van Remortel, Michael Hansen, Taylor, you, Clayton is
There's a whole
there.
bunch.
All the guides that are there are really easy to talk to. They don't
Oh
walk
yeah.
around like a bunch of roosters with their chest poofed out. I mean, Taylor, he walks out with his chest poofed out, but because he's the Rock of Gibraltar. He's a lumberjack. He's a tank. So but other than that, everybody's so easy to talk to.
Should I end it
Really.
now?
That's too many oatmeal cream pies in the boat.
Oh my God.
So,
Don't rip on Taylor too much here. Come on,
Bring Brian back.
huh?
bring Brian back.
Yeah, there you go. Nah, it just everybody has a good time there. I think everybody's pretty easy going at the show, and they're easy
hmm
to talk to, and they're willing to teach anybody, if everybody wants to take that time. So again, the show is, March 20th through the 22nd. It was the way the calendar flew. I think, fell this year. Next year, it'll kind of go back to that 17th, 18th, and 19th. It's all on how the calendar falls. But, you know, I think this year, it's taken 15 years, but we've learned how to utilize every inch of space we can on that floor.
hmm
Recon will be there with the new Tuffy Magnums, the Esox Magnums, as well as the Recon boats. Um, There'll be we give booths to the muskie clubs, clubs that are raising money to do help in stocking fish and research on the water. Um, I don't know. There's plenty. All you gotta do is take the time, walk up and down every one of them aisles, and you'll
hmm
find out. You mentioned that a lot of people make this a weekend, and they do. Our 2 and 3 day passes go up every year. Hotels are basically filled, I think. I think there's a few rooms left at the Econo Lodge got bought out. They overhauled. It's going to become a Quality Inn. They've gutted the rooms, all brand new beds, brand new everything inside. I think Holiday Inn is pretty filled up. All the hotels are pretty filled up. There's a few rooms available for the guys that want to come up for the weekend. And because we got guys that have come from all over. We got a lot of people from Milwaukee, of course, Madison, Chicagoland, south side of Chicago. We've got people coming from central Illinois to the show, as well as Ohio, New Jersey. We've had people from Florida, California. It's unbelievable. There are guys literally that flew in here. I think we got people from Canada. So they come from all over. They're not just coming from a 100-mile radius of Wisconsin. Minnesota, a lot of people from Minnesota, the UP. So there's a nice mix of people. I
That's
think most
good.
people have a pretty good time on the floor.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I hope everybody listening or watching here takes some notes, comes early. As everybody knows, the lines go way out the door on both Saturday and Friday of the Wisconsin Muskie Expo and some of the baits that we showed here. Some bait builders might make it one maximum per person. So make sure you get in there and get what you need, but don't leave because it's a great show to hang out, watch.
We also, You're exactly right about that, Gus. On Friday we had 893 people in line before their doors opened last year. But we've taken some measures to get the people in faster. I mean, they worked as fast as they could to get people in the show. But this year we've taken some measures to expedite, the people onto the floor, and that should, cut everything
Okay.
back a lot to, to a very shortened time to get in. They're not going to have to wait long. But you're
Gotcha.
right.
Yeah.
There's guys that'll start lining up at 8:30 in the morning.
Mhm.
It's unbelievable.
Yep.
8:30 in the morning, they'll line up. So
Yeah. So yeah, be prepared for that. But yeah, that's awesome. I know we'll talk. I mean, ourselves on this pod, we'll talk more about this Wisconsin Muskie Expo coming up closer. But thank you, Rich, for coming on here. I hope everybody enjoyed this podcast of Mott showing off the baits, talking about them a little bit more in depth. A couple of the new ones that weren't talked before. Super pumped about those. So yeah, thank you for coming on. And Taylor, thanks for coming over and being in person. It's kind of cool. I haven't had an
are
in-person
you
guest
going
in a
home tonight,
while.
Taylor?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's
Well, you're
time for
young.
us
You
to
can
go.
still do that. Is this snowing by you?
No clue.
Probably.
It's dark out. It's been dark for a while.
They were calling for snow tonight up by your neck of the woods. So
Yeah. Yeah, so it might be a slow drive for Taylor, but yeah, we're gonna take off here now. So Rich, thanks for popping on.
thanks, Gus.
Thanks,
See you,
Rich.
Taylor.
See you guys.
Bye, Max.
See you, Rich. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
Hey guys, welcome back. Hopefully you really enjoyed that interview that we had with Rich and Taylor. Had a great time talking about muskie baits there and excited for the Wisconsin Musky Expo. But before we sign off here, I would like to thank our sponsors of the podcast that helped make this possible. We got none other than Thorn Brothers. If you want to go check out what they got going on, head to thornbrothers.com, and also what our good friend Doug Wagner is doing at Next Gen Muskies. If you do want to sign up, use the code MOT10, MOT10, to get 10% off your subscription with Next Gen Muskies on nextgenmuskies.com. Thanks, guys. Signing off here, and we'll see you next week.